I think this is a very important question that every Pakistani is asking actually. So let me just give you a brief background before I come to the reasons. If you go a couple of months back, there was a discussion that if we don't have IMF, we will default, and if we have IMF on our back, things will be okay. And one of the key things that will be okay is that currency will be stable. Rupee will be gaining in the market. So we got a standby agreement in place so that the pressure on rupee is reduced. So in this context, everybody was expecting that once we have now IMF on our back, rupee will stay strong, will grow strong and will remain stable. And we saw a couple of months it remained stable, more or less. But then suddenly, a couple of weeks back, it started sliding down and dollar started gaining actually. The depreciation started, and every day rupees was losing 3 to 4 rupees a dollar. So people were really worried that now when we have an IMF here, why is rupee sliding? And if IMF cannot give sort of the back to the rupee, who else can and what we can do? So that really raised a panic and uncertainty in the market that there is something very serious going on if rupee is sliding down despite having standby agreement with the IMF. And that make it a big question actually, the question of every common Pakistani, the businessman and everybody else. So this is where I think the experts were thinking what is sort of behind this one. So what I think were four major reasons, 4 to 5, that was really pushing the pressure on the rupee, and it was sliding down actually. One of the key driver was the election uncertainty. That once there is no clarity, still there is no clarity on when are the elections going to be held. And this really links to the fate of the standby agreement. So market was thinking that if there is no election in time and elections are delayed, what will happen to the ninth review? I mean the review of February 2024, which is planned with the new government. So the fear that this standby agreement can end in a failure as we ended the last IMF program, because IMF may refuse to engage with the sitting government, the caretakers, to take the review of February, which is planned with the new government. So this really created a panic in the market. And in that case, if you see recently also the default mantra is back again. So this really pushed the pressure on the market, and the people expected that rupee will be sliding, and they started buying the dollars, and it put a pressure on the rupee, and so rupee was sliding. So number one factor is the election uncertainty that pushed the rupee down actually and created a panic and uncertainty in the market. The second very important factor, I think, was the increased demand for imports. When the new government was going, I mean the previous government was leaving, we were, I mean the caretaker setup was coming in, and we have had a standby agreement in place. We had to open these LCs, letter of credits, for imports. So the demand for imports increased because of two reasons. The one, the volume of imports increased because now we have lifted the restrictions on imports that were put in place a couple of months back. At the same time, the commodity prices like the oil prices was increasing in the global market. So combined all this increased to higher demand for dollars. So raising the price of dollar and putting the pressure on the rupee again. Our forex were depleting, though not that level which was seriously before IMF program around $3 billion. We still have around 7 point around $8 billion, but still it was depleting and putting the pressure on the markets. So that was the second factor which caused rupee to slide down against dollar. The reason was very technical and very interesting. IMF has put a condition in standby agreement that the difference or the spread, excuse me, between the interbank rate of dollar and the open market rate of dollar should not be more than 1.25% in a week or over the 5 days average. Now what happened actually is that when there was excess demand for dollars, the people turned to the open market. As rupee in the interbank was sliding, there was more demand. People were not able to buy from the interbank. Rupee started sliding. The speculative buyers who thought and expected rupee to slide down further, they started holding the dollars and piling up the stocks of the dollar, buying in bulks from the open market. So that really pushed the interbank open market rate to very new heights, and it went up to around about 335 rupees a dollar actually. And interestingly, the interbank has to slide because of the condition of IMF, that of every week or 5 days there should be no difference of more than 1.25% than the overall between the interbank and the open market. So as it was very difficult to have open market improve, it was only the interbank which has to slide down, and that put a vicious circle. It created a chain of slides, weekly slides in the rupee's value, and rupee continued to depreciate in order to meet that condition of IMF. So that was third very big pressure on the rupee, and that I think was catalyzing other two factors as well, the uncertainty impact and the larger demand of dollar due to imports impact. So this was really catalyzing and continuously creating a vicious circle, and there seems at that time no ending to this one actually. So that was the third factor. But the fourth factor was very interesting, that now inflation is also pushing rupee down. There is a discussion on that how depreciation causes inflation, but at the same time we must understand that inflation also leads to depreciation actually. Due to higher prices, the value of rupee goes down. The people start hedging against this inflation and converting their savings and pensions into dollars. So that adds another factor to the demand of dollar. The dollar's price raises and rupee goes down. And one final, that was external impact. It was that dollar was getting strong, gaining across all the currencies globally due to the Fed's policy. So all these five factors really pushed rupee down in last couple of weeks that we have seen over the time.